Don't believe the lies. Do some research, girl. You've been told all your life that this is a gateway drug. It's not a gateway drug. It's an exit herb, exit from pain, anxiety, all sorts of issues.
Welcome to the Well with Cannabis podcast, a show dedicated to telling the life-changing stories of those who live well with cannabis, all while teaching you how to do the same. Meet your host, Emily Kyle, a registered dietitian nutritionist turned certified holistic cannabis practitioner. Emily changed her life for the better with the help of the cannabis plant, and now she is committed to helping others do the same. Tune in each week to hear heartwarming stories and gain the knowledge you need to feel connected, inspired, and supported on your own cannabis journey. Whether you're a new cannabis consumer or a lifetime lover, you'll benefit from these uplifting tales of real-life journeys that will show you how you too can live your best life well with cannabis.
Before we jump into today's episode, I wanted to share a note on potentially sensitive content. The episodes on the Well with Cannabis podcast are created for adult audiences only. We will at times cover sensitive topics, including but not limited to suicide, abuse, mental illness, sex, drugs, alcohol, psychedelics, and the obvious use of plant medicine. Explicit language may be used occasionally. Please refrain from watching or listening to the show if you are likely to be offended or adversely impacted by any of these topics. The information on this show is for informational and educational purposes only. It does not constitute medical advice. If any of the content on this podcast has brought up anything for you, please reach out or speak to a professional or someone you trust. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a very special episode of today's podcast, the Well with Cannabis podcast. And I'm here with what I consider probably the most special guest I could have, Janice Bissex from Cannabis Wellness. And I want to get you to know her, but I first want to tell you all how much it means to me to have her here on the podcast, because if you guys don't know, so I'm a registered dietitian nutritionist by trade before I started working in cannabis. And Janice is also a registered dietitian nutritionist, and she's the very first dietitian that I ever saw working in cannabis. And it changed my life, my career. Janice, I think of you. I put you on a pedestal. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be me. I wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be having this conversation. So I just hope you know how much it means to me to have you here today.
Oh, thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be with you. We've known each other for years, and it was so fun to talk about this and then to see where you've taken this. You're a rock star. It's awesome.
Thank you so much. But like I said, I would have never in a million years even considered what we do today as an option. When I first became a dietitian, I hid the fact that I used cannabis like it was my job. God forbid if anyone found out during my internship or anything, I thought my life would be over. My career would be done. That would be it.
Sure.
And then I don't know where we were, but I saw you were talking about CBD. And for a while, you were the meal makeover mom. Yes. You were something very traditional. And then I saw you working in CBD, and then I had the chance to meet you. We met at Fancy with Bonnie, and it just opened up my whole world and changed everything. So thank you for being so brave and then coming here to talk about how this all happened for you as well. So I'm going to give you the floor. I'm going to stop talking. I want to learn more. You got into cannabis because of your dad, and I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that with us.
Sure. So when I grew up, I was told cannabis, marijuana, it's a gateway drug, just say no. So, I kind of bought into that. And so fast forward, I tried it in college, and then it sort of we didn't cross paths again with this plant because I had the stigma that still a lot of people have. And then when my dad was in his 80s, he had some very severe pain. So the doctors gave him opioids, right? He hated the opioids. They made him groggy, tired. He was a very active man, and they made him so constipated that it required a 3-day hospital stay. Now, we're dietitians, but we're not going to talk about that. We're not going into detail. Oh. It was awful. So at the end of this hospital stay, I said to his doctor, isn't there anything else we can do for his pain? And I said, what about medical marijuana? Because it had just passed in Massachusetts. Now, again, I knew nothing about this. And I honestly, I'm not going to lie, I used to say medical marijuana using air quotes because I didn't understand. Yeah. So when his doctor said I think that's a great idea. I thought, I guess I better do some research, as every good dietitian would, right? So I did research, and the more I read, the more I thought, you've got to be kidding me. This plant has been used medicinally for thousands of years. It's been illegal for about 80 years, not because of science or medicine, but because of politics, greed, and racism, period. So I said, okay, we got to try it. So I had to convince Dad and Mom, and we tried it. And I took Dad to the dispensary. He was in excruciating pain, got home, tried to figure out how to, screw the vape pen, and click it 5 times. And he took a couple of puffs and he stood up and said, I'm going to go take a nap. And when he stood up, he said, wow. And I said, are you okay? Are you dizzy? He said, I'm not in pain. I thought, I don't believe this. So that day, I left my business of 15 years as a meal makeover mom.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes. I taught people how to eat a healthy diet, as a lot of dietitians do. And I went back to school. I pursued training and got certified as a holistic cannabis practitioner. And now that is all I do. And it is, and you can probably attest to this, the most rewarding work I've ever done.
I can, absolutely. How did you be so brave to make the transition? Because you are a pioneer in our field. You were the first one I have ever met to ever even say the word cannabis, And
right.
I have to imagine that was probably difficult.
It was a little bit. When I went to Fancy about 7 years ago, I made up little business cards that said Cannabis Janice.
I remember.
Very clever. And I got a little bit of like, oh, really? Really? And one of my friends, who I love her dearly, and this actually was pretty good advice. She said, I love what you're doing. She said, but Cannabis Janice, you might want to change your name. So I thought, and all my friends were calling me Janibus. So I thought, okay, how about Janibus Wellness? So I just came up with Janibus Wellness, and that stuck. And I just plowed forward. And I did get some pushback, and you probably have as well, Emily, from fellow dietitians who say, people have said to me, this isn't in our scope of practice. I'm like, well, who's going to educate people then? The doctors aren't, right? They're still not learning about this in med school. 15% of med schools talk about the endocannabinoid system, and cannabis is
surprised it's even 15%.
I know. I mean, that's negligence as far as I'm concerned, right?
Yes.
They need to know this, even if they don't believe in it, which it's science. There's not really believing in it. This is science. There is plenty of evidence. With our government, as you know, has a patent on CBD as an antioxidant and neuroprotectant. There is so much evidence about this medicine that doctors, dietitians, nurses need to know about this. So that's one reason I'm excited about working at John Patrick University. As you know, I'm teaching cannabis therapy to health practitioners. I mean,
that is one of the most amazing, and I would love to talk about that, because for a healthcare practitioner, does it get any better than that? You are doing such huge work teaching our next generation of health educators. Tell me more about what that looks like day to day and how it feels.
Well, the university has a master's degree in integrative and functional medicine, which I don't know about you, but in my training, we didn't learn about integrative and functional medicine. It was very clinical. Even my master's degree was a repeat of my undergraduate. I learned about the Krebs cycle again. Really? Come on. Didn't learn about, food as medicine, about plant medicine, all these things that now, as an older dietitian who's been in the field for a while, I think, darn, I wish I had learned this, decades ago. But I'm a little late, or I guess we're all a little bit late to the game. So when the university reached out and said, we want to start a concentration in cannabinoid medical sciences, I thought, really? Is this a joke? The dean reached out on LinkedIn, and I didn't reply because I thought, this guy, I don't know, this doesn't seem real.
Too good. Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Now it's been about 3 years, and I teach cannabis therapy. I have other professors, nurses, pharmacists that are also teaching as faculty. And we teach the next, as you said, sort of the next generation of practitioners. I have doctors, nurses, dietitians, in my class. And it's just so interesting. I have a nurse now he's about maybe in his 40s, and he wrote a post this week and said, what's missing is the generational knowledge, right? The cultural knowledge on cannabis. And we've missed that for the last 8 decades because it was taken from us. So there's no one to say, this is what works for me. This is what might work for you, which makes our role even more important.
Absolutely, because so many people are scared of cannabis at first because no one's ever talked to them about it in a positive or helpful light. It's always been scary.
Yes.
And that's where your work probably, when I think about how many people we can impact with our work, you are just multiplying because you're shaping the minds of these healthcare providers. And I think that's so beautiful. Do you see a lot of minds changed with your work? Are people hesitant at first?
Well, definitely the students in my program, they've bought into it because they're in there. Yeah. But other people, when I give talks, and you've done the same, you do a lot of writing, scientific writing. And the more that we do that, I feel really good about what we're doing because education, it's all about education. I wasn't educated in this, so I understand the stigma because I was there 6 or 7 years ago. So coming from that sort of background, I have a little bit of empathy for people who don't get it because they shouldn't get it because they've never been taught. Exactly. So you sort of have to start people with where they are. So a lot of my clients, I start them with CBD, right? That's a little less intimidating. And then if they don't get the degree of pain relief or relief for whatever their symptom or condition is, then I'll say, let's add a microdose of THC. We're not going to get you stoned. And a lot of my clients are older. Some are younger. I have teenagers. I have a 6-year-old. I have all age groups. But I say it's not going to impair you. Let's start with just 2.5 milligrams and then work our way up until we find the relief that you're looking for. So when you start that way, as opposed to, I'm going to be honest, some people walk into a dispensary. A woman in my yoga class went in and said, I have a hard time sleeping. They sold her a chocolate bar, Emily, with 25 milligrams of THC per square. They told her to eat a square to help her sleep. I said, Lois, it would help you sleep okay. You might sleep a little longer than, and of course, we know no one's ever died of a cannabis overdose, but it can be extraordinarily uncomfortable for a newbie if they take too much.
Yes. And it can turn people off from ever trying it again,
bingo.
Which is my biggest concern because I don't want people to be like, I was in college, I ate a brownie, it was the worst experience of my life, I'm never going to do it again. Right. When you use it correctly with the education behind you, it can be something so beautiful, safe, and beneficial that can just improve your quality of life overall. But you have to be smart about it. And that's why your work also with Cannabis Wellness is so important, is you hold hands, you baby step with people. And for people who are new to cannabis, that is so important because just jumping in head first is not right for everybody.
Exactly. Yes.
So what does the work look like? If someone comes to JanibisWellness.com, what does that look like? Can they work with you? How do you work with people?
Sure. Yeah, they can set up a consult and I give them an intake form to get some background information, their condition, the medications, because as you know, we have to be careful with certain medications with potential interaction with CBD or THC. So I look at that and then we work together and I just say, okay, let's figure out how we can help you. And again, we usually start with CBD and then we progress depending on their condition. But I mean, I have clients I have a woman who's been on Percocet for 15 years, every day, multiple times a day, Percocet. She now doesn't use any Percocet at all. And she just uses, CBD. She hasn't even needed to progress to THC and she's finding adequate relief. She's more mobile. It's so heartwarming. I saw a woman yesterday in a coffee shop and a friend introduced us and she said, oh, you're Cannabis Wellness? I said, yes. She said, my dad you have helped my dad. He had excruciating arthritis in his neck, and he's so happy now. He's so much less pain. I thought, oh, see, that's like you. It's like when we can touch people's lives, that is just, it's so rewarding.
Oh, I agree so much. It makes this work feel so rewarding. And part of me doesn't identify as a registered dietitian anymore. And part of me does, because I find, first, I think dietitians are uniquely crafted to be the cannabis educators of the world.
Agreed.
But I also feel like for a lot of people, they think that cannabis just is the answer. But we know it's just a tool in our tool belt.
Yes.
We have so many other tools that you probably work with your clients. What do those other tools look like, and how do you make it a full picture?
Mm-hmm. Well, you have to look at the whole picture. Like you said, lifestyle. You look at are they exercising? Are they getting some downtime? The endocannabinoid system, as you know, is influenced by what we eat, our stress levels. So I try to work with people and say, okay, let's look at how you can feel better, whether it be through exercise, a proper diet. Maybe they need some more vitamin D, maybe some omega-3, have some more fish in their diet. So we look at for sleep. It's not just here, let's give you THC, although it can be very, very helpful. But, screen time, turning off the screen, having a bedtime routine, all those things that we can help them with. Some people can meditate. A lot of people are intimidated by meditation. Mm-hmm. So what I say is all you have to do, take 10 slow, deep breaths a couple of times a day. That's enough to calm your body, right? It affects the vagus nerve. And it just is enough to sort of give them a little bit of relaxation, even if they can't, quote, meditate.
I don't know if you find this, but I find this a lot, is that when people start using cannabis, they actually start this whole health journey that they didn't even intend to set on. And so they might fix the immediate issue, whether it's pain or anxiety or something like that. But then they find all of these other really amazing things that cannabis can do. It can make you feel more active. It can help you sleep better. And it just feels like it rolls into this snowball of wellness. And I think it was Dr. Ethan Russo who said that the endocannabinoid system really truly is the center of the mind-body connection. And when you think about it that way, it just makes so much more sense why people are seeing just these improved quality of lives in so many different facets.
Absolutely. Agreed.
So moving into the future, are you feeling hopeful for our healthcare professionals? And obviously you're educating them, so I hope so. But where do you see us moving forward?
I think it's baby steps. I think part of the piece of the puzzle is that we need to legalize this plant. I mean, the fact that it's still illegal, and you and I know a lot of the reasons why. I mean, the pharmaceutical companies stand to lose a lot of money when cannabis becomes legal federally, because people will find that they can find relief with the pharmaceuticals. So they will lose money. So they're working very hard behind the scenes to keep it illegal. There are a lot of other factors at play. We have private prison systems that make a lot of money with imprisoning people for cannabis possession, which is just a tragedy that we have people, in particular people of color, who go to jail for decades for having a joint in their pocket. It's tragic. It really is. So, absolutely. I think that we're getting there. We need to legalize it. Then we can do more robust research.
Yeah.
Now, we do have research. People who say, oh, there's not enough research. Come on. There are thousands and thousands of clinical trials, but we do need more. Yeah. We do. We absolutely need more. And some of the trials, are with rats and animals, but we need human clinical trials. But there are enough trials and research for our government to say it's good for pain, right? And national institutes, national academies have come out to say cannabis is effective for pain. I mean, that's pretty huge for them to say that. There has to be significant results for them to say that.
And then I just think about the Schedule 1 classification. It kills me. I can't believe that and I guess one thing I didn't always realize is when they made it a Schedule 1 is that halted all research and no research can go forward. And I was like, I'm pretty sure fentanyl is like Schedule 2.
Right?
Sometimes I'm like, I can't believe we live in 2023. Still, it's unbelievable.
I know. And I am hopeful. I mean, every year I say, okay, maybe this year it'll become legalized. Maybe this year. Not yet, but we're inching closer. I do feel that we're inching closer, because it's hard for me when I work with someone with breast cancer in Georgia, for example. It's illegal in Georgia. So I help them, and I say, well, I can't look at your local dispensary to help you figure out what to buy because you can't. So then people are forced to have friends in other states get their medicine for them.
Crazy. Or I have a lot of folks down in Texas who resort to D8 products because that's what's available.
Exactly.
And for anybody listening, D8, it's a Delta 8 THC, but it's synthesized. It's not the way it is in products right now. It's not naturally occurring. They make it, and the way they make it, they quote unquote, the producers, is questionable. There's no safety regulations, and it has been making people sick. But I have people in Texas who say they'd rather take the chance than have nothing at all. And that kills me.
That's the position we're putting them in, right?
Absolutely.
Because they can't access Delta 9, which is natural and has been used for thousands of years. We have lots of safety information on that. So that's a problem.
Yeah. But I mean, we are moving forward. We've seen a lot of progress in the last couple of years. And then when I think about the work that you're doing, it gives me so much hope and joy, because you really are influencing the most powerful influencers who are going to go out and change how they talk and treat their patients. And ultimately, that's going to make such a difference for people. I know so many people who are terrified to discuss cannabis with their doctors.
Exactly. Even those who are using it effectively to manage their
even
condition,
medicinally, are too afraid to talk to their doctor.
Of course. Yes. And I just was listening to a webinar last night, and they were talking about how a pregnant woman, if she tests positive, it's like a big, huge deal in the hospital.
Yes.
And that this Dr. Sulak, who I'm sure you're aware of in Maine, Dustin Sulak, he's a great cannabis doctor. And he actually reaches out to the doctors of either a pregnant woman or anyone who's going in for surgery and says, listen, my patient is using cannabis medicinally, and you need to understand this. And he said, that's helpful. But if you just go in and you test positive, it's a big deal. It
can have huge consequences, especially in those states, the states that are not friendly. I mean, we're talking CPS coming to your house.
Yes.
We're using something that's safer than the options they offer you. And, on a personal tangent, I was pregnant 18 months ago. I had my baby in New York State. And they wanted to know I had my medical card. I'm not sure what they would do if I didn't have my medical card, but they wanted to see it in the hospital when my baby was born. And I was like, thank God I have my medical card. I don't know what it would have looked like elsewise. And I'm in New York State. Imagine what it's like in Texas, Alabama. It's crazy.
Yeah, it really is. It's unfortunate. And again, that's why we need to legalize this federally so that people aren't put in that position.
Do you have any advice for someone who might want to talk to their doctor, because that's obviously the right thing to do, but are scared about bringing that up with a healthcare provider?
Yes. Well, I would say that you should bring it up and say, I am using this successfully to help with my X, Y, and Z. And if the doctor freaks out, then I think it's time to get a new doctor.
Thank you. Yes, we are not bound. We are customers in the healthcare system.
That's
can find somebody else.
Right. So, and, I tell some of my clients, if you want to bring a couple of research studies with you that shows, hey, there was a study that showed for inflammatory bowel disease, 45% went into remission using cannabis. I mean, how can a doctor not look at that and say, gee, maybe I should learn a little more about this?
I guess maybe you'd be the right person to ask about this. Are doctors prohibited from advocating for cannabis or no? I'm never quite clear on how that works.
I don't think I think some of them think they are. Okay. But I don't think they are. They can't just say, I think you should do this, right? You should use cannabis. But they can say, some of my clients, some of my patients are successfully using CBD or cannabis to manage their condition. And that's something, even end of life. I'm so passionate about that. And honestly, if I knew what I know now, my dad's end of life would have been much more peaceful. I was just starting to learn back then. And so he used it for his pain. But, when you bring in hospice and, they just give morphine, which again just makes you kind of a little bit of a zombie. So I really regret that I didn't know more back then, that I could have helped in that area.
Yeah. Do you work now with helping people with end of life situations? Because I could see how that could be really helpful for a lot of people.
I don't do a lot of it. I did do my end of life certification at University of Vermont a few years ago. After my dad died, I was so passionate that I did get certified. It's not like a big focus, but I have worked with people who are near the end of their lives. So I do some of that. Yes.
Probably such a comfort for folks. A lot of people, they just want what's best for their loved ones. But if they don't know what to do, having your guidance probably means the world to them.
Right. Yes.
You do such important work. I'm so, so thankful that our paths have crossed and that you have influenced me to be able to do the same thing and follow in your footsteps. And I want to be respectful of your time, but I also want to ask you the same 4 questions I ask all of my guests. Are you ready for the first one?
I'm ready.
All right. First one. What are you most proud of in your life to date?
Oh, wow. In my life.
Your whole life.
Oh, for goodness sakes. My whole life, I guess I'd have to say my kids.
Most people say my kids and then say, and then
I would say the people that I'm helping right now with my education around cannabis and CBD. That is something that I'm proud of. And I'm proud of other work that I've done, but this is very, very different.
Feels good.
Yeah.
Next question. What do you think your life would look like if you never found or experienced cannabis?
Wow. Well, it would, I wish I knew then what I know now, but I wouldn't have this career if I didn't understand cannabis. I wouldn't sleep as well because I have started using some THC to help me sleep. Yeah. So I'm sort of new to the whole using cannabis. I taught about it and I helped other people, but now I'm like, wait a minute, you can use this to help you sleep. So I guess I would not sleep as well.
Sleep is precious. That's amazing.
It sure is. Yes.
If you could go back 10, 20, or even 30 years ago, give yourself a piece of advice, what would it be?
It would be, don't believe the lies. Do some research, girl. You've been told all your life that this is a gateway drug. It's not a gateway drug. It's an exit herb, exit from pain, anxiety, all sorts of issues. So that's what I would have told myself, to look beyond the headlines, if you will.
Yes, absolutely. Last one. I don't even think you need to answer this because I feel like I already know what I have a special place in my heart for you. If you could be remembered for just one thing in the cannabis space, what would it be?
Educating health professionals. That's my passion. And I see that as right now, that's my superpower.
The greatest superpower. Like I said, you are changing so many lives. You've personally impacted my life in a really meaningful way. So for having you here, it just feels so full circle and so special to me. Thank you so much for coming on this show, for being an inspiration, and just for being who you are and doing what you do in the world.
Thanks, Emily. And I'm so proud of you and the work that you do. I'm just so excited to connect with you again. We see each other at conferences, but it's really great to see what you have done also.
Thank you. Now, if people want to learn more about you and Janice Wellness, where can they go?
JaniceWellness.com. That's cannabis with a J. JaniceWellness.com. And they can get all sorts of information. And I have resources and little handouts and just general information for people. And I've written 2 books. I've written 2 books, Simple Guide to CBD and Simple Guide to Cannabis Gardening. I want people to be able to
do the gardening one.
Yes, because I want people to be able to just put a little plant in the ground and watch. I mean, you're the expert in this. Watch, and I write about you in the book. I give some references. I'm like, yeah, go to Emily Kyle. She's
so nice. Thank you. I am going to get a copy, but I'll also leave a link for both of those for everybody listening. Please go get a copy. Go to janibiswellness.com. Thank you for the work that you're doing, and thank you for being my inspiration.
Thanks, Emily. It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Congratulations. You've finished another episode of the Well with Cannabis podcast and are one step closer to discovering how you too can live well with cannabis. Thank you for listening in today. We hope this episode has been a helpful and informative one. Please visit EmilyKyleNutrition.com for more information on today's show notes, guest information, recipes, and other resources. If you want more support and encouragement on your cannabis journey, please consider joining the private Well with Cannabis community. In this group, you can connect with like-minded individuals focused on improving their health and wellness through cannabis. Join the group today to continue your journey of wellness together at EmilyKyleNutrition.com.